So we're continuing Meretz Hashem in Hilchos Pesach, and we find ourselves again in Siman Kuf Yud Aleph, chapter 111 in the Kitzur, and we are up to Halacha Vav, Halacha 6. Hachadarim shemochrim la'akam im Chametz. So now, it's interesting, the Kitzur over here is talking about the Halachas of Mechiras Chametz, selling Chametz. So if a person sells rooms to a non-Jew, now again, obviously, ima chametz. So I'm selling the room and I'm also selling the chametz. So in fact, the way we do mechiras chametz, remember, is that we go ahead and we sell the chametz and we also sell the area in which the chametz is situated. So what's the halacha? Kevan she'im mochrin ad lamachar. Since the sale of chametz doesn't really take place until Erev Pesach, therefore, imkein chal alav balay l'chiyav bedika. Therefore, there's an obligation to do bedika in those rooms on the night of Erev Pesach, the night of Bedikas chametz. Why? Because you own them. This is very interesting. In other words, any area that you own as of the night of Erev Pesach, one is obligated to go ahead and do bedika. Now, this actually gives rise to a very interesting halacha, which would then say that if you were to go ahead and sell these areas before the night of Pesach, before I should say the night of Erev Pesach, then halacha l'maisa, one would not be obligated to do bedika in these areas, right? Because again, the obligation of bedika really only devolves upon an area that you own as of the night of Erev Pesach. If you were to do an earlier sale, and halacha l'maisa, you would not own that area the night of Erev Pesach, technically speaking, you would not be obligated to do a bedika, which is just an interesting halacha. Again, we'll talk more about that when we get a little bit more into the halachos of mechiras chametz. But again, the idea that the case is trying to highlight over here is that even though I know that I'm selling my chametz, and I'm selling the rooms, I'm selling the area upon which the chametz is situated to the akum, to the non-Jew, since the sale is not going to go into effect until the following day, i.e. Erev Pesach, therefore, halacha l'maisa, I'm obligated to go ahead and do a bedika on those rooms the night of Erev Pesach. Okay, halacha zayin 7. Before a person begins the bedika, yivarech, a person should make a bracha. Shek the shamas tzav tzivanu al bir chametz. The bracha we make is that Hashem, you have commanded me regarding the mitzvah to destroy chametz. Now, of course, what's interesting about this is I'm not destroying anything; I'm searching for it. So why do I make the bracha of al bir chametz? Even though I'm not really destroying it now, right? I'm not going to be destroying it until later. Mikol makom mevarich al bir. So this is interesting. This is very interesting. So the Kitzur says, why are we making the bracha of al bir chametz, on the destruction of chametz, if in fact I'm not destroying the chametz right now? Remember, again, I'm just searching for it. So the Kitzur gives an interesting answer. He says, as we'll get to this in just a moment, when you finish searching for chametz the night of Erev Pesach, we do bittul. We nullify, we essentially make the chametz hefker. Now, interestingly enough, what chametz are you making hefker the night of Erev Pesach? You're making hefker the chametz you don't know about. Because remember, again, the chametz you do know about, you're still going to want to eat that night, you're going to eat the next day. So I'm not making that hefker. So I'm making hefker the chametz I don't know about. So essentially, this is the way I, quote unquote, destroy that chametz, right? The chametz I don't know about, I'm not going to find it, I'm not going to see it, and therefore I'm not going to really burn it Erev Pesach. So how do I destroy it? I make it ownerless. So therefore, again, because there is a partial destruction of chametz that is happening on this night, therefore the bracha is al bir chametz. There's a more classic answer that's given, is that obviously in order to burn the chametz, you have to find it. And therefore, again, the beginning of the process, or the beginning of the mitzvah of destroying chametz, in fact, occurs when you begin to search for the chametz. Okay? And that's the halacha. We make the bracha of, so there's no bracha of al bedikas chametz. Rather, the bracha that we make on the night of the bedika is al bir chametz. And the Kitzur goes on. He says, v'tov, lo yafsik ben habracha l'tilas habdika. When one makes a bracha, after you make the bracha, you really should not interrupt. You shouldn't be mafsik, talk or do anything else between the bracha and the beginning of the bedika. Really, v'tov shelo yafsik ad gemar bedika. Ideally, it's better not to talk until you finish the entire bedika, ela b'mashehu me'inyan habedika, unless, of course, the conversation you're having is somehow related to bedikas chametz itself. V'yachol livdo kama batim bracha achas. One could search a number of different houses using one bracha. So you can make one bracha of al bir chametz and search multiple homes, or your house, your car, your office, all with one bracha. You don't need a different bracha for every location. Rather, one bracha covers multiple locations. Incredible. Halacha ches. Yesh noagin shekodem habedika manichin pisuse lechem b'mkomo shimtzeim habodek. Now, some have the custom that before they begin the bedika, they put out pieces of bread. Now, again, the Mishnah Berurah quotes from the Arizal who says that you put out 10 pieces of bread. It's interesting. The Kitzur doesn't give a number. He just says the minhag is to put out pieces of bread, but make sure to put it in a place b'mkomo shimtzeim habodek. Make sure to put them in a place where you're going to find it. Now, why would we do this? Right? It seems a little counterintuitive, right? We're searching for chametz to get rid of chametz, and here I'm actively going out and putting out more chametz. What's the pshat? What am I concerned about? I'm concerned that I'm going to make this bracha of al bir chametz. I'm going to start searching. I'm not going to find anything. And if I don't find anything, then it's a bracha in vain. It's a bracha for nothing. Now, this is very interesting because the truth is, the halacha really is, it's not true. In other words, the bracha of al bir chametz is a bracha to search for chametz to destroy it. Now, the mitzvah is to search and destroy. If you don't find anything, you don't find anything. So there's no real bracha levatala. It's just, again, this custom of the Arizal really has become much more pronounced and accepted. And therefore, halacha l'maisa, the custom is we put out 10 pieces of bread. All right, upshita kimisha ino bodei karai elo shumakabetz elo hapisusim lo kiyem mitzvahs v'digav asa bracha levatala. On the other hand, you also have to be careful for something else. If you put out the 10 pieces of bread, and all you do is search for the bread, and that's all you do, you collect the 10 pieces, and then, all right, you're done, right, let's finish up our pizza from dinner, then that's not bedika. In other words, in fact, the Kitzur says, that's a real bracha levatala. Then there's a real concern of making a bracha in vain, because under those circumstances, again, really, I'm not really conducting a real bedika. I'm just doing some kind of ceremonial thing. Meanwhile, this is not ceremonial. This is halachic, right? This is obligatory. So therefore, again, the Kitzur says to put out the pieces of bread and just collect them, and that's it. That's actually a potential issue of a bracha levatala, of a bracha made for no purpose. Okay, incredible. Therefore, one has to make sure, so put out the pieces of bread, collect the pieces of bread, but then one also has to go ahead and engage in a more exhaustive search afterwards. Halacha tes. Hachametz shumishayir la'achila o l'mechira. So, okay, so now I do my vedika, and then afterwards, again, I have chametz left over, right? In other words, remember, it's Erev Pesach night, so I still have chametz in my house. So chametz that I'm going to eat tonight, the night of Erev Pesach, or the morning before chametz becomes aser. Yaniach kodem habedika b'makom ha'meshumar heitev. Make sure to put that chametz aside before you begin the bedika. Whatever chametz you're going to be eating that night or the next morning, early the next morning, make sure to put it aside somewhere that is closely guarded. V'chein ha'chametz shumotze b'bedika, so v'tzarach l'sar from the mach. Yaniach b'makom ha'meshumar u'mekush shalom. Similarly, again, after you do bedikas chametz, any chametz you find that night, make sure to put it away in a secure location also. This way, again, remember, here's the issue. If one loses track of chametz, then technically speaking, you have to do a whole new bedika. In order to avoid the need for a whole new bedika, then halacha l'maisa, one has to make sure that they keep track of, number one, the chametz I'm going to be consuming that night and the next morning, and also one has to keep track of the chametz that they find. So whatever you find also, make sure to put that in a secure location. So ultimately, again, you know halacha l'maisa where to go ahead and look after it. Also, we'll stop over here for today. Shkoyach, everyone.